Hi and welcome to a new episode in the Crochet Along with Me vlog series on this channel. I'm Andrea and I'm your host for this video, and I invite you to pick up a crochet hook and a work in progress or something new that you would like to make and crochet along with me while we talk a little bit about crochet and work-life balance and such similar subjects that might interest you. If you're wondering why I'm out here and not inside in front of a wall of yarn, that's because as much as I enjoy watching other people crochet in front of their excessive amounts of yarn, I like being outdoors and crocheting outdoors, and I hope that you will also try it. If you have an opportunity to go to a local park or a local forest and just maybe find a bench like this one and spend a few minutes crocheting outdoors. So let's get into it. These blogs have a general format where I present you one or several of my whips, and you can tell me about yours in the comments. Then I tell you about some finished projects and finished objects, if there are any available, and if I've been testing anything, and plans for the future. We also have a segment with a topic that changes from episode to episode, and in this episode we will be talking about having too many projects and prioritizing and letting go of things. So let me show you some of my whips. I brought two with me today because I couldn't decide on which one to work on camera, so I can show you both of them. This is a regular crochet filet shawl. As you can see, it's pretty round. It will be a crescent shape, and the point is for the filet to create a kind of a fractal structure in the shawl. It's very meditative, very repetitive, so it's one of those relaxing crochet patterns where you don't really need to look at the instructions very often. Just sit and do your thing. I have a little bit over half of the cake left, but it's already making a mess. So after I use up a little bit more of this, I will make this into a ball, and then it will be easier to work from it. But right now it's still pretty much a cake. This is Rose Garden from YarnAndy, and it has 1000 meters per 250 grams, and I'm using a 3mm hook with it. The second work in progress that I want to show you is this filet crochet shawl. It's quite narrow, but I like the pattern very much. And I also work on it with a 3mm hook, and it's the same hook because I can't find any of my other 3mm hooks. And after you learn the pattern, which is a bit tricky, you can just keep going on your own because it's symmetrical. So as you can see, it's symmetrical until the middle of the row, and then you have motifs. I hope that when I finish this it will be very beautiful because I already love how it's working up. And I am using a very thin yarn from Ice Yarns. It's called Ande Alpaca, and it's 30% alpaca and 70% acrylic, and it has 350 meters per 50 grams. So it's very thin and it goes a very long way, and I will probably use 5 or 6 of these balls of yarn, and I have a lot more, so I will probably be making a few more filet shawls. I have different colors as well. These are from the beginning of my crochet adventure. Let's not call it a journey, okay? After I learned to crochet, I bought a lot of yarn from Yarn Paradise, and I'm not very proud of myself, but I have to use up that yarn, and most of it is thin like this, so it's going to take a long while. No regrets though, because I really like these filet shawls, and I hope you will try some of them out as well. I'm planning to make a collection of filet shawls inspired by my heritage, my Romanian heritage. For this video though, I'll be continuing to work on this one because I don't really have to think about it. I have 1 row with increases and then 3 rows with no increases. And I know you're wondering what? How is that possible? It's just maths. And when I publish this pattern, you will see how that works. For finished objects, I don't have a lot to show you. I do have 1 slipper. I tested this for Arunima from Knitter Knotter, and she said that the pattern will be available in her shop, so look out for that one. It was a very interesting project. You start working this band and then you create this piece right here. Then you go around and pick up stitches and work like this. Then you make this piece and then you add the fluffy cuff. I didn't have such pretty yarn like she did to create this cuff, but it's still comfortable. I used 2 strands of this eyelash yarn, but I could have used 3. So if you don't have the pretty fluffy yarn that Arunima uses in her project, you could also use this kind of eyelash yarn, maybe put it in 3 to create the cuff. It's a quite advanced project because it uses a very small Tunisian crochet hook, and you have to pick up stitches like this and work in rows back and forth, but I think it's worth it. And I have to start the second slipper because I put this on and I couldn't take it off for an hour even though I didn't have the second one. So one of my feet was really warm and the other one was freezing. You can make it in 1 color of course, but I used mushroom dyed yarn from my stash in the same weight as Arunima used. This is just basic sock yarn that you can find everywhere. So this is my 1 finished object for this month. And I also have something else. At the beginning of the month, I had an idea while posing shawls on my mannequin to take some new photos. What if I made a poncho out of 2 shawl-like shapes without the tips? So you would work a regular shawl and then stop increasing at some point to create the over the shoulder bits. And I tried the idea. This yarn is not great for it, but it's interesting. The results are very nice. So I have to still work on this idea. This is not finished. As you can see, it's still got the ends that I need to weave in, but I will take this apart and try with a different yarn. With a gradient yarn, you could go from the middle and have a very nice poncho, but this is just a prototype. So initially I thought that I would work until I had enough width to have it around my shoulders here, and then I would add a piece over the shoulder to close it up to have a smaller neckline. I sewed up the sides here and I tried it on and I didn't love it. So either I tried this again but with more increases, so the shape grows like this more here for the neckline, or what I did is to sew up some of this open end here where I still had increases, and this creates an interesting shape. When you put it on your shoulders, you will have a kind of a fold here, and it looks like a puffy sleeve, but it's not a sleeve because this is a poncho shape. So that got me thinking, and I will try it. I will try both ways, one with the diagonal bands and one without, just to make things easier. And it also looks good when you turn it like this. So now you have a very nice neckline. The side here doesn't hit you in the neck when you put it on, and the bottom is pretty uniform, so it's quite straight. And I will try to wear it like this as well when I finish the actual prototype. Let me show you. So this is one way of wearing it, and you have a nice fold here in the front that creates some volume. and nice drape. And of course you need to add a lot more length, but I ran out of yarn, so this is what I could manage to do. For summer, I think it's good enough, maybe a little longer. And this is what it looks like with the little puffs on the shoulder and the point in the middle. This looks more like an actual poncho because it has the V shape in front. So this was just an idea, and this is to show you what happens in my brain when I do something. I come up with 15 ideas of different things to make at the same time. Which leads us to the topic of today's discussion in the video. But first let me change, please. So if you're like me, you have several projects going on at the same time. You pick something up and you start working on it. You have a very nice vision of what it's going to end up like and what it will be like, and 25% through the project it's not coming out the way you imagined it, even if you made a swatch, even if you blocked the swatch, even if you've worked with the yarn before. Many times what we envision doesn't come out the way we envision it, and you get ideas on how to fix it, how to improve it. You get ideas on how to change one detail, how to change another detail, and then how to make a hat out of this, how to make mittens. You'd actually want to make a sweater with this pattern, and so on and so forth, and you end up with 15 ideas coming out from one project, and they are all more interesting than the project that you're working on. At least in the moment. It's not easy to just keep working on a project when you have so many ideas of other things that you could be doing, and sometimes you start doing something else and you leave the project aside, and then you forget about it and you move it and you can't find it anymore, so you continue on your new idea, and then you get 10 more ideas from that one, and it's a cycle that never ends. Especially if you have a stash full of yarn that you bought without having an actual idea in mind, like many of us do. I know there are people out there who only buy yarn for one specific project, but I doubt that all of them finish that specific project and or are not left with some yarn after that that they could use in something else. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for this part of the vlog, and now I know why this is happening, so it will not happen again in the next one. But I hope you can forgive me and that you enjoy these scenes that I filmed while out and about. So what do you do when you have too many projects in progress and there's no end in sight? Some people might recommend a journal. So whenever you start a new project, you put it down in the journal, you write your vision there, the pattern you're using, if you're using a pattern, or if you're creating one, the main idea for the pattern, the shape of the object, what characteristics you'd like it to have, and how much yarn you have put aside for it, and which hook size and all that stuff. You can use Ravelry for that if you are not affected by the new design. And if you are affected by the new design, I have a guide on my blog on how to make it less migraine inducing, because I also cannot use the new design. So I created a skin for Ravelry so I can use it to put my patterns up there for anyone who only uses Ravelry to buy or use patterns. But you can also use a physical journal, and I've thought about doing that, but guess what? I have never written down anything that I've made except for patterns. So when I have an idea for a pattern, I write it down. I have a big notebook full of random pages with all sorts of ideas, and sometimes I write the pattern down in there. Sometimes I write it up on the computer, and that helps in the beginning, because afterwards I stop writing because I have too many ideas. So we're back to step 1. Journaling works for a little while, as always. Something else. Stopping altogether from buying yarn. I tried that for 2 years actually. I only bought, let's say, 1/4 of the yarn I would have bought. So I actually still bought yarn, but a lot less than I would have had I not given myself this limitation to not buy yarn without having an actual idea in mind for it. And even so, sometimes it still doesn't work. Giving yourself this hard line in the sand, you're not gonna cross this, no more yarn for you, doesn't work. It works a little bit. So most of the time when I see something, I tell myself, okay, you're not going to buy this yarn. And I respect that, but that's just most of the time. So that means I need to finish some project before I can buy some new yarn that I know I like in some cases, or new yarn to experiment, or new yarn to try ideas that have appeared ever since I started designing in a particular direction. So if journaling doesn't help, telling yourself not to buy yarn doesn't help, what helps? I think maybe writing down your ideas as they come and selecting the yarn for them and budgeting for this yarn, or becoming a yarn snob, so that you would not allow yourself to buy the cheapest yarn available, even though it's on clearance or whatever. It's very cheap, but then it fills your life, and what's the point? If it brings you stress, then there's no point in filling your life up with accessibly priced yarn. That's also an effort, I know. So what helps the most is when you're working on one project and you feel the urge to start something new, just stop and think about it. Why do you want to start something new? Is it something that in your current project that's making you want to quit it? If so, what is it? Is it the drape of the fabric? Is the shape bad? Is the hook size wrong? What's the problem? Can you fix it? Can you go back? Can you frog the whole thing and start again with the lessons that you've learned already from the project? Can you make a little bit more progress on it and see if you like it later? Can you over dye it if you hate what the final object will look like in your chosen color? So think about that. If you have a project where you don't like the color of the yarn, and next time when you want to buy yarn, keep that in mind. Can you over dye the finished project if you don't like the finished color? Because sometimes we buy yarn, it's very pretty, and then it ends up looking So buying natural fibers only should be a priority if you know that you will change your mind about the way the yarn will look at the end. Because that you can over dye always, and it's a very easy process. And I might make a video about it if you want me to. So that's about color, about fit. If you're already finished with the thing or close to finishing it and you don't like the fit, it's too small, or the pattern was wrong, or you could have made some adjustments for fit and you didn't know that you could, and you end up with something that you're just not very happy with. Sometimes you will find someone to take it off your hands. Even if you don't necessarily want to get rid of your project, you might find someone who loves it just the way it is, and then it's better to finish it and gift it or sell it to someone else who will cherish it the way it is, and then you can make another one for yourself, keeping in mind all the things that you've learned. And of course, we all need to learn how to frog without frustration. Also, you might feel like you might want to give crocheted gifts to your loved ones, but sometimes we punish ourselves. Sometimes we choose projects that are way too complicated and take too much time to make for our loved ones, and we take away that little joy that is ours. So creating something and getting lost in the process of crocheting and just enjoying doing something for ourselves. This is very typical in this period right now before the winter holidays, when we decide to make everyone a gift. And while I applaud you for wanting to make everyone an awesome and big gift, sometimes we should just choose smaller items to make for our loved ones. You can use patterns for smaller things, or chunkier yarn, or just pick and choose who is most deserving of your hard work and who can just get something else this year. Not everyone needs to get a handmade gift, and not everyone appreciates getting a handmade gift. So look around you when you decide to make a gift for someone and pick something that you know they will like. So I will have a little gift guide on the blog soon. I will share the link in the email updates when it's ready, and I will add their patterns. Many of them are free on my blog for items that you can make as quick gifts that will be appreciated, and that will also give you some challenges or make you think, or something that is very simple. It depends on what you want to do. I will also add the link to that blog post in the description of this video when it's ready. One segment that I really enjoy in this series is the one where I read a comment that someone left on the previous vlog. And you can leave your comment below, and maybe I will choose yours to read on the next vlog episode. So on the last video, Michelle Foxworth said, "I am testing one of your patterns right now that is due in November, and I am loving it, as I do all your patterns. I am also working the raspberry croissant shawl for when I need a project that is more meditative and doesn't require as much attention. I must say that the honeycomb stitch is so beautiful, and I have made a couple of shawls for gifts that the recipients have absolutely loved." Thank you, Michelle. You are awesome, and I am so grateful to have you as one of my testers. So Michelle has tested for me several patterns and has actually completed the tests for the macaw wings shawl and is making another one, and that makes me so happy. It's amazing to work with such awesome people. So I thank you so much, Michelle. On the last vlog episode, I also got a thanks from Leslie, whose comment I read, and I want to let you know that I really appreciate it, and I thank you very much. But if you want to support me in creating patterns and these videos on the channel, I much more recommend that you go and buy a pattern. You can use one of the many codes to get a pattern much less than a coffee, and you can support me much better that way, because you also get something in return, and that makes me a lot happier than just getting thanks here on the YouTube platform. So this has been a long video. I hope you enjoyed it, and that you will go out and take your crochet project with you and try to do some crochet out in nature, even for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is enough just to breathe in some fresh air and listen to the birds and just relax a bit. So I will see you soon with a tutorial in 2 weeks. I'm not sure which pattern it will be for, but probably one of the textured cowls. So if you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you want to know when that video comes out. But it's better if you subscribe to my emails, because then I can send you an email when all the patterns are available. I have a link in the description and in the cards where you can subscribe to my emails, and I will see you there next week. Take care of yourself and of your loved ones. I'll see you soon. Bye.